Hi, my name is Eric Shechtman. I'm a speedrunner. You can find me at Twitch TV/GrooveHeaven with no spaces. The definition of speedrunning is finishing a game or finishing a certain set of arbitrary goals defined in a game, and doing this as fast as possible by any means necessary. So while there are a number of runs where it's simply about just playing fast and optimizing things, there are a lot of runs where people will employ glitches that are found that can maybe skip parts of the game or allow you to get places or do things you can't normally do in the confines of the actual coding of the game. In my senior year of college, my friend posted a video on my Facebook wall of a run from a convention called Awesome Games Done Quick, where a bunch of people get together. Usually the best player of each game will show up and they stream their runs of certain games, and they donate any of the money that is donated to charity, a different charity every year. So I saw Cosmo Wright's Ocarina of Time run and Runner Guy 2498's run of Majora's Mask, and that's what got me wanting to do it. So I started playing on console in my friend's room. She owns an N64 in the games. I haven't been part of the community long, but from what I can understand, it seems like speedrunning has its origins in Ocarina of Time because it's such a broken game that people identified a lot of the glitches pretty quickly and started setting up routes to finish the game. So it's definitely been around for a really long time. I think around like 2005. A select group of people, including the two people I mentioned before, started finding these tricks and setting these routes up. All you need to start speedrunning a game is the console in that game, but that is not the way I would recommend to learn a game that's glitch intensive or very difficult to practice the same kind of trick over and over again. I was, struggling with some tricks on console with Ocarina of Time, and sometimes when you mess up the trick you can't really go back, and so it made it really time consuming and difficult to practice. So I bought a converter to plug my game controller into the computer, and I run an emulator of the game, and that you can make little save states and go back to them wherever, and that's a much easier way to practice and learn a game. But it wasn't all bad learning on console. It really did, it helped. I got decent, I learned full runs of games on console before I got emulator. A lot of older games are used because one aspect, I think, is that a lot of people grew up with some of these games, so they have a really good idea. Like games like Yoshi's Islands and Ocarina of Time, I think a lot of serious gamers have played those games, a lot of times, so they'll have a better grasp of the game to start with. But they also are more ripe with glitches, the older games, because as coding gets better, less things become exploitable. Something about the Nintendo 64, a lot of games were 3D and all the coding was new. There are a lot of N64 games with a lot of exploits. Just something about that console generated games that could be really messed with, even more so than like the Super Nintendo and Nintendo. I think speedrunning gains a level of popularity because it's difficult and it does challenge you the way a normal game would challenge you to be technical and do, technically difficult things. But the challenge isn't on purpose, which is, I think, adds a level. It's almost kind of funny to do some of the things because it wasn't intended by the developers to be a challenging part of the game, and yet it has become, and people get really heated world record battles trying to finish games really quickly. So it's got a really strange appeal to it. It's got a really different appeal that sets it apart from other types of competitive gaming. I think a lot of people like that. That's the reason I like it. I continue to speedrun. At first, I actually approached it more with curiosity than any competitive, emotion. I just kind of wanted to do it because I thought it was really goofy and it looked pretty fun, and it looked like, you know, kind of a cool like trick to show people. But once I learned about how competitive it gets and how much there is to learn and know and be able to apply, and how many different kinds of events and you know, rule sets people set up to make more interesting runs, I got really into it. And I think that actually happens to a lot of people, that it kind of draws you in to show a certain level of dedication. I think speedrunning is niche because I think on its face a lot of people just think it's goofy, and I think a lot of people don't like the idea of replaying a, you know, single player campaign so many times, especially in a competitive sense. That's strange to people, to have a competitive capacity within a single player game, because most competitive games are thought of as, you know, fighting games and RTSs and stuff like that. But the more I see people on Twitch asking how these glitches work, or why, you know, he's playing a game in Japanese text, the more I realize that people are starting to get into it. So hopefully it won't be as niche for so long, but it'll always be a really underground scene in the competitive gaming world, because it is just really strange, and most people turn away from that, and I can understand that. Speedrunning has begun to garner more attention. The thing is that it's becoming more out in the open. A lot of people would probably be into it, they just don't know. That was my case. I wish I knew. When this all started, I would have been into it, but marathons like Awesome Games Done Quick are very quickly expanding the reach of speedrunning, and it has gotten a lot more popular, especially as new games are routed and found, you know, more tricks. Like Wind Waker is actually a lot of people are starting up Wind Waker because a really popular speedrunner started playing it and getting the time like an hour under, you know, the previous world record, so it got attention. And on Twitch TV, which is a website where you can stream any video game that you're playing, sometimes speedruns will be competitive, and at Awesome Games Done Quick, it beats out really popular esports like StarCraft 2 and League of Legends, which are both competitive games. I think one part of it is that people really are proud of their own skills and their own routes, because a lot of speedrunning is route planning. Sometimes down to the inventory, where you don't want to be opening the inventory too much and you want to just know exactly what you need and get that going. So I think people become proud of their routes and want to set world records like that. And there's definitely a lot of competition goes on, and even sometimes a little drama, but it's a really cool scene. It's got a bunch of people who really love a game and really don't mind playing that game over and over. And it's really cool to watch someone set a world record or set a really good run when you're wondering if they're going to mess up. And, you know, it's the word the community would use is hype. There are a lot of hype runs. A guy came to install a carbon monoxide detector in my apartment, my landlord's kid. And he had played Ocarina. He's maybe like 1 or 2 years younger than me. And he saw me doing a run called Reverse Bottle Adventure, which is a really strange, glitchy run. And he kind of just sat down and watched me do the whole thing. And it's like an hour and a half. And he was getting calls and being like, no, I'm working on a job right now. And he was actually just watching me do a speed run. So, I like that.